Welcome, and thank you for joining me in practice and in devotion today. I encourage you to make your space inviting and cozy for the next 30 minutes of practice. Let's get started in a comfortable seated position. I'm starting with a bolster, but it is completely optional. Once again, making your space, your mat, a place that you are drawn to. So bolster or not, let's start seated, hands on the knees. We'll take Jnana Mudra with our left hand, bringing the pad of the index finger and the pad of the thumb to touch. We'll start with a breath technique called Nadi Shodhana. Lifting the right hand off the knee, palm face up. Let's curl the pointer and the middle finger in towards the palm. And sitting up tall from the base of the spine to the crown of the head, allowing a clear channel for breath to flow. Bring the right hand back down to the knee, keeping the mudra. And let's take 3 rounds of cleansing breath. Inhaling through the nose deeply, sipping in a bit more air at the top. And opening the mouth, sighing the air out. Let's do that 2 more times. Let's begin closing off the right nostril with the right thumb and inhaling through the left side. Closing the left side off, exhaling right side. Inhaling right side, closing off the right nostril and exhaling left side nostril. That's 1 round. Let's do 2 more. Inhaling through the left side nostril. Close it off. Exhale right side nostril. Inhale right side nostril. Breathing into the third eye space. Cover the right nostril. Exhale left side. Exhaling to completion, last round. Inhale through the left side nostril. Deep breath. Close left side off, exhale right. Deep inhale to right side nostril. Close off the right side and exhale left side nostril. Full exhalation. Allowing a sense of relaxation to spread from your heart space to the tips of your fingers and your toes as you start to finish off the last round, bringing your hand back down to your knee, releasing the mudra. Let's pause and reflect in a moment of stillness, noticing the effects of breath technique on our whole entire being, sitting in that stillness and moving with that stillness through practice today. Inhaling, arms sweep up towards the sky, palms come to touch, and exhale, draw the hands down through heart center. Once more, inhale, sweeping up, gathering all the energy around you. Palms come to touch and draw that energy down into your heart space. 1 breath, 1 movement. Inhale, arms sweep up, gathering the chi and drawing it down into your heart space upon your exhale. Pause with the hands at heart center, thumb pressed against the sternum. Inhale the arms up towards the sky, taking a seated twist. Left hand comes to the opposite knee. Right arm hooks at the low back. Taking 3 deep breaths as you draw your chest forward. Releasing the bind, bring the right hand down to the ground. Left arm reaches up towards the sky for a side body stretch. Looking up towards the sky as you open your heart and your chest to the front of the room. Right arm reaches up towards the sky to meet the left, and open twist to the left side. Right hand to the opposing knee as the left arm hooks at the low back. Remembering that sides are different. And with no judgment, just observation. Bringing the left hand down to the ground, right arm sweeps up towards the sky for a side body stretch. Looking up towards the sky or the ceiling. Taking a deep breath into the right side body, feeling it expand. Left arm reaches up to meet the right, palms come to touch. Take a bend at the elbows. Palms are at the base of the neck. The stretch is coming from the upper back, not the low back. Continuing to breathe as you draw your chest forward. Breathing through any constriction. Allowing a full body expansion. Lift the hands up towards the sky and bring them down to the ground. And let's shift into Balasana, child's pose. Big toes touch, knees are wide, walk your hands towards the top of the mat. I'm using a bolster here just for extra support. Again, it's completely optional. As we take 3 to 5 full and deep body breaths, allow the weight of your body to be completely supported by the mat and the floor beneath you. And starting to walk the hands over to the right side of the mat. Option to bring the right hand and bind it at the low back. Making sure to still sink the hips down towards the heels. Releasing the bind, walking the hands over to the left side of the mat. Optional bind with the left arm. Remembering it's okay if you choose not to do the same thing on both sides. And releasing the bind, walking the hands back through center. I am removing my bolster now and walking my hands back out towards the top of the mat. Taking a bend at the elbows for prayer behind the head. And notice that with a few deep breaths, your spine will elongate, and you may feel the need to walk your elbows forward just a bit. Outstretch the hands towards the top of the mat, lifting up into tabletop position for 3 rounds of cat and cow. 1 breath, 1 movement. Inhaling on the cow and exhaling on the cat. Last one, and let's hold for a full round of breath. Next exhale, we will round for cat. Another full round of breath here in cat. Really breathing into the back side of the body, into the shoulder blades. Coming back to a neutral spine, we'll tuck our toes. Inhale for cow pose, and on our exhale, we round for cat and sink our hips towards our heels. Inhaling forward for cow, drop the belly. Exhaling, round the spine and sink the hips towards the heels. Pause before coming forward once more for cow pose. Round through the spine and sink the hips. Pausing here, stretching into the toes and the bottoms of the feet. And coming forward, untuck the toes, shake the feet out a bit. Dropping into cow just to transition into cat once more. Coming up onto the fingertips, really tucking the chin to the chest and dropping the crown of the head towards the ground as you take a couple of deep breaths into the upper back. Noticing where you can still invite a bit of softness in. Lowering down, let's build on this sequence. Dropping the belly for cow pose, squeeze those shoulder blades. And we'll tuck the toes, round through the spine and lift the hips high for downward facing dog with a small bend in the knees. Lower the knees down for cow pose. Look forward, round the spine, lift the hips. Ardha Mukha Svanasana. Knees down to the ground for tabletop. Into cow, draw the chest forward. Round through the spine, lift the hips high to the sky for down dog. Gentle bend through the knees, and let's start to walk our dog out. Taking your time, letting go of any rush. Let's meet with our right heel down to the ground and hold. Switch sides, left heel down to the ground, deep bend in the right leg. And both heels down to the mat. If the hamstrings are tight, take a slight bend in your knees. All together, let's lift high on the toes, bend the knees, and step to the top of the mat. Inhaling to a flat back. Exhale, fold forward. Slowly rolling up to standing, head and neck come up last. Sweep the arms up towards the sky and draw the energy down into your heart space. For Tadasana, palms face forward. We'll take 3 rounds of Surya Namaskar A. Inhale, arms sweep up, gathering the energy. And exhale, folds forward, bringing the hands down to the ground, grabbing opposite elbows, using your arms as a weight, hanging your torso like a pendulum, feeling free to swing from side to side gently or shake the head out, yes and no. Releasing the arms down to the ground, inhale to a flat back, plant the palms, step back into high plank, and lift the hips for Ardha Mukha Svanasana. Dropping the chest down to the ground, let's lift up high on the toes and drop our heels over to the right side of the mat. Deep bend in the right leg. Deep breath into the left side body. Lift back through center, adjust your hands and drop the heels over to the left side of the mat with a deep bend in that left knee. Letting everything go here on the mat that doesn't serve you. Coming back through center for down dog. Lifting high on the toes, bend the knees, step or walk to the top of the mat. Inhaling to a flat back, folding forward, slowly rolling up to standing, head and neck come up last, arms sweep up towards the sky, drawing the hands down through heart center for Tadasana, palms face forward. letting go of any anticipation or rush. Let's interlace the hands at the low back, extend the arms down towards the ground to open through the chest. Crown of the head reaches for the ceiling. As you draw the shoulders down the back to create space in both sides of the neck. And starting to fold forward, hands can stay at the low back or they can start to lift into the air. Wherever you are, inviting a few deep, deep breaths into the pose. Inviting presence into the practice. Connecting with your intention. Release the hands down to the ground and interlace your fingers at the base of your neck. Using your arms as a weight to draw your head down towards the ground as you release through the upper back and even through the low back. Maybe giving yourself a neck massage or a scalp rub while we're here. Drop the hands down to the ground. Inhale to a flat back, hands on the shins. Plant the palms, step back, high plank. Lift the hips, down dog. Bring the feet out mats width distance apart and walk the hands in a couple of inches. Right hand lifts off the mat and reaches for the outside of the left leg. If your legs or your back is tight, you may have to walk your hands in a bit more. And as you settle into the pose, start to twist and look underneath your left armpit. Right hand back down to the ground, switch sides, left hand reaches around for the outside of the right leg. And as you start to settle, dropping the chest to the ground as you look underneath the right armpit. One more breath. Release, completely coming back into down dog position with the hands and the feet. Start to lift the heels off the mat, bend the knees, and step or walk to the top of the mat. Inhale to a flat back. Fold forward. Inhale, slowly roll up to standing for Surya Namaskar A. Sweep the arms up towards the sky. Take a bend at the elbows and find prayer behind the head. Notice how we can build heat through slow and mindful movement. Release the hands down to the side and we're going to bring them to the low back. Palms come to the base of the spine. We're hugging our elbows in towards one another for a small back bend. Your elbows are going to want to draw out, but draw them in towards one another. If you need more, gently push the hips forward to help open the heart and the chest to the sky. And releasing the hands, lifting back up. We'll sweep our arms up towards the sky. And exhale, fold forward, wrap the arms around the ankles as you draw your chest down to the ground. Lift up halfway, plant the palms, and step back into downward facing dog, taking about 3 rounds of breath. Before dropping the knees down to the ground. For tabletop position, let's start to circle the right leg around, taking full hip circles. Glutes are engaged. Switch directions. And lifting the left knee off the mat, right toes to the sky for 3-legged dog. Let's really start to build some heat. Spread the toes, stretch the foot high to the sky, and bring the foot down to the ground. Tap and lift it right back up to the sky. And we'll draw it through cheetah. Pause and step the right foot to the top of the mat. Back heel spins down for warrior 2 position, creator 2. And circling around the back arm, circling it forward, up and back once more, all the way around, and hooking the left arm at the low back. Dropping weight into that front knee as deep as possible, or as deep as is needed today. And inhale for straight-legged peaceful. Right hand to the sky, look up to the fingertips. And exhale, modified side angle, elbow to knee. Lifted through the chest, bottom arm just there for support. Release the bind and bring both hands down to the ground. Step the right foot back. Drop the knees to the mat. Inhale, right fingertips to the sky and thread the needle. Dropping down onto the right shoulder, walk the left hand towards the top of the mat, playing around with the positioning of the top arm. Finding what feels best. Option to extend the left leg, bringing the sole of the foot down to the ground. Bind the top arm at the low back. Deep breaths into the right shoulder blade. Fill yourself up with prana. Option to lift the left foot off the mat and bring it parallel to the ground for a little balance play. Core is activated, pelvic floor activated. Release the bind. Lift back up into tabletop position and drop the knee to the ground. And start to circle the left leg around, taking big hip circles. Switch directions. Active glutes, strong arms. And lifting the right knee off the mat. Left toes to the sky for 3-legged dog. Really stretching those toes. Bring the foot down to tap the ground and lift it back up towards the sky. Draw the leg through cheetah, really rounded through the spine before stepping the left foot to the top of the mat for creator 2, warrior 2 position. Spin the back heel down, arms open out. Start to circle that back arm around. Forward, up, back, and we'll hook the arm at the low back, dropping weight into the front knee. Feeling the Uddiyana Vayu, upward rising energy as we come into straight-legged peaceful. Left hand to the sky as you look up towards the fingertips. Bending back into the front leg for modified side angle. Lifted through the chest, through the torso. Release the bind with the top arm. Bring the hands down to the ground. Step back into high plank position. Dropping to the knees. Walk the hands towards the top of the mat for puppy pose. Dropping the armpits to the floor. Hips stay stacked over the knees. Rolling forward into Sphinx position, drop down onto your forearms, untuck the toes. Gently tucking the chin to the chest as you draw the shoulders down the back to create a long line of energy from the crown of the head to the tips of the toes. Starting to lift the elbows and the forearms off the mat to straighten the arms for more of a back bend. Take one more deep breath into the chest before lowering down onto the forearms. Bringing your hands out wide, coming up onto the fingertips. On an inhale, lifting through the chest, taking a bend through the right leg, and bringing it over towards the left arm. So we're stretching through the abdomen, through the low back. Bring the right foot down, switch sides, left leg bends, and we're going to draw it over towards the right arm. Stretching through the shoulders. Know your limit. Foot comes back down to the ground, lower onto your chest, forehead comes to the mat. Release. Full weight of your body on the ground, supported. Bring the hands directly underneath the shoulders, tuck the toes, lifting high on an exhale for high plank. Hips to the sky for down dog. Right toes lift to the ceiling. Draw it through cheetah. Plant the foot at the top of the mat. Back heel spins down and we open out for warrior 2 position. Straight into the bind. Left hand hooks at the low back. Sinking weight into that front knee. Turn the front hand palm face up for straight-legged peaceful. Coming through modified or full side angle. Any variation of side angle. Making sure to stay lifted through the chest. Breath flowing freely. And we'll step forward for half moon position. With or without bind. We're stacking the hips on top of one another. Feel free to release the bind and bring the right hand palm flat against the ground. It's okay if you fall out. Just come back into it. Being patient with yourself. Dropping the left foot towards the back of the mat for a wide-legged forward fold. Turn the toes in and the heels out. Hands come to the ankles as you draw your chest down to the ground. Release through the legs. Release the head down to the ground. Shake it out yes and no a couple of times. And lifting through the chest, hands to the top of the mat. Step the left foot up to meet the right. Inhale for a flat back. Fold forward, hands around the ankles. Slowly rolling up to standing. Drawing the hands down through heart center. Let's find tree pose. Lifting the right foot off the mat. Bringing the inside of the foot, the sole of the foot to wrap around the ankle, the calf, or bringing it all the way up to the inner thigh. Everyone's practice will be a little bit different. Find the arm variation of your choice. Connecting to the essence of tree pose, rooted, grounded. Releasing the right foot, step it to the back of the mat with control. Plant the palms, left toes high to the sky for a 3-legged dog. Draw that leg down through center. Plant it for creator 2, lifting up. Sink weight into that front knee. Bind with the right arm. Connect to your breath. Front hand palm face up. Rise for straight-legged peaceful. Shifting into modified or full side angle. Remember, sides are different and there is no judgment. Getting ready for half moon position. Starting to draw that back foot up as you stack the hips on top of one another. Legs, arms are active, feet and hands. Release the bind with the top arm. Drop the palm of the left hand to the ground or on a block. Block is a wonderful way for support. Slowly dropping the right foot to the back of the mat for Skandasana, side lunge on the right side. And opening the arms out in a fluid motion, we'll shift back and forth. a few times in Skandasana. Turning towards the top of the mat, right foot steps up to meet the left, coming up to standing. Sweep the arms up to the sky and draw them through heart center. Let's find tree pose, lifting the left toes off the mat. Sole of the foot can wrap around the ankle, the calf, or come to meet the inner thigh. Feel your right foot rooted and anchored into the mat. Find your drishti, a single point of focus or observation, to help with balance. Coming back to your still point of focus. And when you're ready, release the leg down to the ground. And let's find Malasana, Yogi Squat. I'll be using a bolster, again, just an option. Let's sweep the arms up to the sky and sink the hips down to the ground as we draw our hands through heart center. Elbows come to the knees, gently drawing them outwards. Feel that long line of energy from the tip of your tailbone to the crown of your head. Feeling the opposing forces of Udana and Apana Vayu, upward and downward moving energy. Breath as your drishti, or your single point of focus. If you have the bolster, we'll start to move it to the side as we drop our hips down to the ground, bringing the hips width distance apart, hands plant behind us, straightening the arms to lift the chest forward, hips rise to the sky for a reverse tabletop position, stretching through the shoulders, the tummy, the hips, lowering down to the ground and rolling onto your spine for pigeon on our back. So the left ankle will come across the right knee. If this is enough for the hips, feel free to stay here. If you'd like more, draw the legs in towards the torso and interlace your fingers either around the thigh or the shin. The shin will be a bit more intense of a hip opener. Making sure to keep all four corners of the back on the floor. And if you notice that your mind wanders, simply bring it back to the experience of the pose. Bring it back to the sensations that arise. Releasing the arms and sliding the left leg on top of the right for a supine twist. Legs drop down over to the right side of the mat. Arms open out to a T. Allow the weight of your legs to drop completely down to the ground. Breathing deeply into the belly. Allowing the whole body, the whole torso to dance with breath. Draw the legs back through center for pigeon on the right side. Right ankle stacks on top of the left knee. Draw them in towards the torso and interlace your hands around the thigh or the shin. Notice the experience invoked by the pose. Release the hand and slide the top leg on top of the bottom, dropping them over to the left side of the mat for a supine twist. Both shoulder blades are glued to the mat as you twist from the belly, intentionally deepening the breath, intentionally filling the belly up with air. Draw the legs back through center and unwind them. Feet up to the sky, return to Venus, allow some of the blood flow to come back down to the heart. And let's find shoulder stand. Starting to lift the feet towards the sky. Arms come underneath the low back for support. Plow pose if that's in your practice. Bring the toes to the top of the mat above the head. Option to interlace the hands as you drop the arms down to the ground. Staying with feet up towards the sky is also an option if these are not a part of your practice. Deaf man's if that's in your practice. Knees hug the ears. And starting to straighten the legs. Peace sign fingers around the big toes as we roll down onto our back for happy baby. Last pose, soles of the feet face the ceiling. Give your minds full permission to be with your body as you release the toes and walk your feet to the top of the mat for Shavasana. Gently placing the hands on top of the belly, releasing any control over the breath. Allow the toes to fall out to the side. Relax the muscles in your face. Shavasana. Take rest. And that is where we will end practice today. Feel free to stay in Shavasana as long as you'd like. Otherwise, make sure to end with a moment of gratitude and a moment of reflection, honoring this practice, honoring one another, honoring all that came before and all that will come after. Idam Namama. Namaste. Sending you love wherever you are.